It's September 27th, 2025, Saturday. I think I've been saying the wrong dates lately. I feel like I said that date yesterday. I've been tired I've been saying that all the time now, but something's wrong with me. So, I skipped a run yesterday. I probably should have done something today, but I also skipped today. And any reason I come up with is just an excuse. Friday, I guess I had diarrhea. I guess and I was feeling run down from that. I guess that's a legitimate. I don't know. I probably still could have done something. And then today I just didn't do it. I'm just struggling. For some reason, my HRV has been low for lower than average for a lot of days. For some reason, I don't know why. So my baseline is 42 to 51. I'm 52 years old, which I seem to find conflicting info on whether that's a good range or not. Some things say it is. It was 40 last night, 40 night before, 39 before, 37 before that, 42 barely in normal before that, 35, that's one of the lowest I've ever had before that. And before that, it had jumped up to 48. But before that, it had been low for a number of days. So I don't understand. I'm at a normal altitude now. So apparently it's not that. I don't know. I have edema in my feet, which could be because I took creatine again after I ran out. So maybe that causes that. Oh, that reminds me, I should drink. I think part of it is that when I change places, I always kind of get dysregulated or something. I'm a creature of habit. I have good discipline with routines. In fact, I think really good compared to a lot of people, at least, that I've known. But when I change my routine, I kind of flounder. because before that it's all kind of decided already. I've decided a healthy routine on what I'm gonna do when, and I can just kind of hit it and work hard at it and just do that. But when things shift, like we come back here to Kansas City, I just struggle. And plus, we're doing a lot of different things. We have a lot of errands and visits and things to make, so it's all excuses, though. For some reason, it's just when I don't have it already set, like the time and the place and the what, it's just harder for me mentally for whatever reason, or whatever the word is. So there's really no reason to not just do your workouts. I mean, they had diarrhea, I guess. But like today, I probably should have at least done some yoga or something, And I could have just gone out we were at a library. I could have just gone in the parking lot or something and done it. But your average person feels uncomfortable doing that kind of thing in public. But I'll typically do that kind of stuff in front of people, but I'm just kind of psyched out or something at the moment. So these things will creep in, and I think they affect all people. And I tend to overcome them most of the time, but when I'm thrown off out of my routine, I guess I struggle more with it. Like you saw a video I did my strength and conditioning in the Walmart parking lot, or even just going and running is kind of like that. I've always had fears of getting mocked or laughed at, and I have been. But at a certain point, it doesn't faze me anymore, for the most part, and because I know I'm doing what's right. I'm trying to be a healthy, happy, strong person. So if someone wants to mock you for that, it's like, well, who's really the idiot here? But sometimes when we switch, when we switch locations, I get thrown off. I just get kind of psyched out, I guess, or something. But I did my priming this morning, and I gotta do that. I gotta keep doing that. I haven't been doing that consistently. And sometimes I think when you get out of the habit, you got to do it more than once a day. At least I do. And you kind of you also got to think about, well, what am I going to do today to reach these goals? Because that's part of the priming, is envisioning it succeeding at your goals, and maybe some short, some medium, and some long run goals. And you just can't be precious about it or whatever. If I got to do yoga or whatever it is, or just some squats or something, you just do it wherever you're at. You don't need to feel like it. You don't need to have the right clothes. You don't need to have the right place. Those are all excuses, and we're all guilty. But I'm just ripping myself off if I don't do it. If I make excuses, only hurt yourself. Well, I guess arguably it hurts everyone around you if you don't do what it takes to be your best self. So sometimes I fall victim to that. What is it? David Goggins calls it He says if you're ever complaining about why you don't want to run, because he deals with it too. He's like, record yourself and then play it back. He says you'll sound like a little B word is what he'll say. And I guess that's supposed to snap you out of it. So you gotta just not let yourself off the hook too much, you know. I'm not saying to go out from going from couch to running a marathon tomorrow, but just the work, the daily work of whatever you can do, whatever the next step in your work is, just do it. I was telling my youngest son Jacob about Seth Godin, like a very famous blogger. He said he doesn't believe in writer's block, and I'm paraphrasing him. It was something like that. He said basically what you're saying is you just don't want to write badly. You don't want to write poorly. So you just do. In that particular example, it's like you just start writing. And Jacob was saying he actually had started journaling in the morning, just kind of free writing, actually, I think is what he said, and just kind of writing what you think about, or I'll even sometimes just write about what I see or what I did. I woke up, drank, took a sip of water. Totally mundane, but from that you kind of get the gears going. I think I was saying this yesterday, but I think that applies to a lot of stuff. Get up, start moving, get some water in you, get some electrolytes in you, get the light, the sunlight in your eyes is a big important thing in the first part of the day. And you yeah. So I was a loser today. I just let excuses kind of sneak in. We did stuff. We ran errands, but I didn't need to sit there at the library like I did, not doing my strengthening. So tomorrow I should run. I'm treating this week like a recovery week, so I might just do something easy, just a short, easy jog or something, and we'll see. I like the Garmin watch. It has a coach. Sorry, I saw someone go behind us. Never saw him come out, so it's kind of, it's just a kid or something pushing him back. But yeah, I like that, but they don't have recovery weeks on their training plans. It's cool because it's personalized. It's looking at your body of data and all your stats. Even it's looking at like the HRV, the things that it's measuring, your sleep, and it's deciding your workout. And if you do a workout and say, oh, I felt weak, because you have the option it asks you how it felt, it'll prescribe your next workout accordingly, or it's supposed to, at least. So it's actually more personalized probably than even if you hired a coach, because I bet, I don't know, but I bet a personal coach isn't going to be like, let me look at your last week of HRV, your last week of resting heart rate, and how you slept. And I imagine they would do more snapshot, like a weekly thing or something. But and so in a sense, it is a highly personalized. But I have felt this way, and I've since found that other people say this, that it's too intense. Like I stuck to a Garmin plan back in the winter and spring, and man, it just seemed like it was just like cracking the whip, man. Like having me do hard, almost the vast majority of my workouts were like hard runs, like fast, long run, like for me fast. Like I was just beasting myself all the time, and I just figured out maybe it knows what it's doing, and I don't know. You know, the funny thing was, I don't think I got injured or anything, and I guess I did improve my speed. I was able to push myself harder than I thought I would be able to. I did get sick though during that, if memory serves. So see, there was no recovery weeks. Like the training plans I've seen and used before, they have like 3 weeks build, fourth week recover, ease back to absorb the training you've done, essentially, to give your body a chance to ease off and absorb, get stronger. And then you do that again, and you have like 2 sets of 4 or 3 sets of 4, depending on how long the distance you're training for is. But I think the Garmin apparently seems to claim that since it's like continually looking at your data and feedback, that it's kind of adjusting for that. But I that wasn't my experience. I just thought it was kind of too intense. But so I'm kind of using the Garmin right now, and the Garmin plan, and then I'm taking more seriously how I feel. And so I'm not doing everything it said. And this thing would have you run like every day practically, which that is to me wild, because the plans I've seen, and I know my dad was the same way, he'd run like 3 times a week, and this thing would have you run every day. And I was able to tolerate it. I was kind of surprised for the most part. I was able to tolerate it. That was kind of cool. I liked running. I like running, so I like running every day, and it was kind of made me feel, you know, kind of good that my body could do that. Now I don't know how long I could have done it. I don't remember how long I did do it. It was maybe a couple months, but you know, and it is good to exercise every day, but the running every day, that was pretty wild. And so right now I'm just kind of using the Garmin coach along with being my own coach too. Kind of saying, okay, I'll just kind of decide, you know, ultimately. And it does say that, you know, like if you look at it has a training readiness score. Like right now it says 75 out of 100, high training readiness, because I had an energizing nap, which was me waking up pretty dang early and then just falling back asleep. That was the nap, I guess. And then it says your nap improved your training readiness. You're recovered and ready. I'm surprised it didn't say anything about my HRV. My HRV is unbalanced. So usually it would be like, oh yeah, so when I look in the HRV, it says your lower than usual HRV may indicate the need for more recovery. If you feel fatigued, take time to rest. So it does tell you it's interesting. It does tell you, hey, if you feel this way, just take time to rest. So you're supposed to kind of pay attention to how you feel. And when I look in my training status, it says your training load has been low lately, but it's helping your body recover well. Your overall fitness is holding steady. I'm not sure how I guess that's just looking at my performance. On my workouts. I don't know. But usually I tend to feel run down at the end of training block plans. But like lately, I've just kind of, the past 3-4 weeks, I just kind of have felt run down in general. Could just be fighting off a virus. I don't know. I probably need to eat healthier. It's hard. I mean, I guess it's not that hard. You know, it's just, I guess, just a habit thing, a bad habit. Sometimes it is hard to cook, to figure out, you know, depending on where you're at, like where to cook and stuff. There are no cooked things like a lettuce, like a salad. You can get those boxes of salad and like canned chicken, and you can have like olive oil and vinegar and stuff. I mean, it's really tasty actually. But sometimes that raw vegetables can be rough on the digestion. So you gotta be careful. Well, not ever, but if you have like, you know, certain conditions, that can be an issue. And I don't know, you know, there's certain, I guess, and with vegetables, I guess you could just buy, we've done some of it, fruits and vegetables, just buy them. They don't have to be refrigerated. You can kind of just eat on them, like a bell pepper or cucumber, or, you know, any number of fruits. You know, onions, you can cut them up in your cooking when you cook. And I guess you could eat salad, leafy greens. When I say salad, I mean, I guess any leafy green. You don't have to cook it. And carrots, celery. I love berries. That's a fruit, but they're so healthy for you if they are organic. They're expensive though. I read before that like a handful of blueberries a day would like reduce risk of dementia like by a huge amount. But they're expensive, but I guess so is dementia. So I've always told myself I'm going to do that, but I just never do it. It's hard to go buy berries that frequently. But that's one thing, organic stuff. If you like fruits and vegetables, the vast majority of them have quite a bit of pesticides and herbicides. And there's a group called the Environmental Working Group, EWG.org, and they keep a list of, like, I can't remember how many total are on the list, but of like most fruits and vegetables, and they have the Dirty Dozen, the top 12 that have the most pesticides, and they have the Clean 15, which is the bottom of the list, the 15 that have the least pesticides. So the ones that people eat the most are usually pretty much the ones that are the most contaminated, and they update it like every 3 years, I think, and it changes from publication to publication, because the practices change. So I just try to stay away from the most common, strawberries, apples, pears. I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but grapes, corn. I think corn was a Clean 15 because I think it's so frequently genetically modified now, and I think a lot of that genetic modification means that it doesn't need pesticides, because I guess like the bugs won't eat it or something. So now when you get into genetic modification, you get into how much nutrition is even in it. Is it even worth eating? And that's true. Genetic modification, it's just like, from what I understand, it's pretty much just similar to like animal husbandry, like breeding of dogs. Like a teacup Chihuahua is descendant of a wolf, and that's just simply done by centuries of breeding dogs that you like the trait. You start with a wolf, and you notice this one has a little bit different features. You're like, oh, let's breed that and then you notice its offspring has even more feature like that, and it's like, oh, well, let's breed that with another one that's like that. And that's just over time you get a wolf into a teacup Chihuahua. It seems hard to believe, but they're directly related. So it's even hard to believe that a teacup Chihuahua is the same species as a Irish Wolfhound, but it is the same species. It's kind of unreal, but you look at people, it's like, compare Shaquille O'Neal to Mary Lou Retton. That's the same species, but they certainly look pretty dang different. So it's with the plants, they want to make the the corn have the highest yield, or anything in general. And it seems to be the case that when you do that, you lose nutrient density. So you end up with calories, which is good. I mean, I think sometimes we do also forget, world hunger has improved a lot. That was a big problem. Famine and people starving to death used to be a big problem, but because of a lot of this kind of stuff, it's not as much of a problem now. So we can't totally demonize genetic modification of plants, because it has arguably saved lives. But as we know, you gotta do even more. You can't just have calories. You gotta have the things. There's a lot of other things in this food that you need, that we are learning, that we need. And it goes beyond our understanding in large part still. There's things we do understand, and there's things we don't. So you've got to since we're blessed to be in this country, you in this Western world, or the developed country, you should try to eat, if you can, not eat fruits and vegetables that are not organic, unless they're like on that Clean 15 list, like avocados, for example. So you should be selective, because you're poisoning yourself otherwise. And then, there's the topic of meat. And you have like, well, how's the meat raised? Does it have the nutrient? The same thing kind of applies, really, because animals get their nutrition from eating the plants, or if it's a carnivorous animal, they're getting the nutrition from the animal that eats the plants, just kind of like we do when we eat cattle or something like, or deer or duck eggs, or ducks or chickens or chicken eggs. So it's, if a chicken, for example, is raised in a building and is just getting kind of just the standard feed, they're not going to have the nutrients in them or their eggs that like a free range chicken might have, as long as it had enough to eat, I guess. But again, they try to, you get into, they put hormones and antibiotics in these animals too to keep them healthy, but then it turns out there's a problem where that is getting into us, and it's not good that we're getting hormones and antibiotics through our food. Then it goes deep, like antibiotics. It's like, well, yes, saved tons of lives, have saved to continue to save tons of lives, but they have a downside. It should be an exception to take antibiotics, not the rule, because turns out you have bacteria that's good in and on you. And antibiotics can wipe all that out, and then you have a problem because it's helping you. In fact, there's a symbiotic connection between your gut and your brain even. And I'm not claiming to understand all this stuff, but this is stuff that science has discovered in more recent years, and it's more complicated than we thought. So you gotta pay attention to what's going on in the world around you, and then you get food that has a whole nother issue is food that has like a lot of chemicals, I guess, for lack of a better word, maybe, or just preservatives, or just, if you read the ingredients on a food and you don't know what the heck it is, it's kind of like, should I eat this? And I'm not saying everything that you can't read is bad, but you should think about it. It's like if you go buy an organic apple, well, the ingredients are organic apple. That's it. It's an apple tree that was not doused in pesticides, or, I think with the USDA organic label, it may even not be genetically modified. I don't know on that, but so that's kind of the thing you want to think about with food. Is it loaded with pesticides or herbicides, and is it got stuff in it that I don't know what it is? And is it loaded with, if it's meat, is it loaded, or eggs, or milk, is it loaded with, or any dairy for that matter, is it loaded with hormones and or antibiotics? And if you start paying attention to that, you'll notice it'll say like hormone free or antibiotic free and stuff like that, or free range. And if it's fish, it's wild caught is what you would want to look for. The word's wild caught, because fish are farmed. They have like a paddock, or I don't know the word for that, but basically sections of where they net it off in maybe the sea or the ocean or something like that, where these fish are raised kind of like a livestock, and they're fed like grain pellets or something, and that's not their natural diet. So fish is potentially very healthy, but that's when it's wild caught, and that's because it's eating a natural diet that has nutrients in it, and that's what gives it its nutrients. And then on an added note, the fish, the biggest risk is getting heavy metals in them. So like in the larger the species of fish, the more heavy metals they tend to carry, like tuna fish, which is maybe one of the most common types of fish to eat. Tuna are huge, actually, and so in that can you're just getting a very small bit of that entire fish, but they have a lot of heavy metal oftentimes, and some species more than others. But the smaller are the way you want to go. Sardines and anchovies, maybe wild-caught trout, wild-caught salmon maybe. But I think the best ones I've heard of, probably safest and healthiest, is probably sardines or anchovies. And those are actually relatively affordable, even the wild-caught ones. So it's a lot to think about, but if you can't do it all at once, but it's just better to know than to not know. And it's not like if you don't eat only this stuff, you're gonna get riddled with disease immediately. But I mean, if you can avoid the other stuff, it's good to, or at least do it as much as you can, because you're gonna avoid toxins, and you're gonna get food that's nutrient rich, which will improve your health. And if your body has an absence of toxins and has a lot of the nutrients it needs, it can do a lot to take care of itself. It heals itself. Dr. Terry Wahls basically reversed her multiple sclerosis symptoms through diet and other practices. It wasn't through prescription medicine. She just kind of had the idea, like, she was taking medicines, and she was like, well, all this stuff is derived from the natural world, all the stuff that's in these medicines. So if I just, and a lot of it's not bioavailable enough, or my body can't absorb it enough, it seems. So she thought, what if I just try to eat a ton of nutrient-dense, toxin-free food to get all of this, and I would get more than the meds are giving me even. And that's what she did. Like 9 cups a day. She has different levels of it, but like a lot of fruits and vegetables, like mostly vegetables. And she eats the rainbow, is what she calls it, because the different colors of food have different types of nutrients. That's what gives them their color. So, and you need all of these different types of nutrients have different benefits. I don't know how she's doing nowadays. I haven't looked her up in a while, and it may be that the MS did progress and that she's back, and I don't know. But the fact is, she did go from being in a reclined wheelchair, like she was an athletic, like a competitive karate martial artist or something, and a long distance biker, and then MS had her in a reclined wheelchair, and she couldn't go on walks or anything, even that. And it's called the Wahls Protocol. It got her to where she could get back out and get back into biking and being more active, and that's pretty awesome. So if you're curious, you can look her up, WAHL. Like I said, I don't know what she's doing now. Maybe it may be that the disease got the better of her eventually, but if she had been eating that way beforehand, who knows, maybe the disease wouldn't have activated. And that's another thing. Stress can kind of unlock these things that are there waiting to get make you sick, and managing stress is also important. That's a big one. Meditation and breathing exercises. Taking the time to prioritize that kind of stuff. So I didn't plan on throwing all that at you, but that's just kind of where it led. That's kind of how I'm doing this now, is I just see what comes up. But I will confess I am not eating very healthy, so I need to practice my own preaching. I need to get better about that. And yes. Sure. I guess I don't have a whole lot else at the moment. Not that I can think of. I got more creatine today. That's a supplement. That's another thing. You can take supplements to help your health, you know, vitamins, and I think I talked about those last night. So I feel like I should have something else. But I guess I'll just stop there instead of making you watch me think. Well, thank you guys for watching. Have a blessed night. All right.